right, the wait is over. It is finally here. La Marzocco has listened to the market and has responded with a more appropriately sized and priced home espresso machine. This is the La Marzocco Linea Micra. So we've got the Mini and the Micra. This is so you have some visual comparisons. I'm also going to show a little bit of the differences between the two because I'm sure you have a lot of questions and I'm going to try to answer them as best as I can in as little time as possible in this video. Of course, I'll have time cues below, so give those a look. And also while you're down there looking in the caption, perhaps, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, do something like that. That would be fantastic. So before continuing, I do want to make sure you know early on that this machine was sent to me by La Marzocco out in Italy. There's no payment here. I let them know my rules. I'm very intense on the rules, and just to reiterate them for you now, I do not show manufacturers my review before I publish it. I do not discuss with them my thoughts. I just make the review and I put it out there, and if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. This is from a local shop who let me borrow it just for the visual examination. All right, now let's actually get into things. So some of the biggest obvious things are, the biggest thing is the size difference. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna measure. When we're going side to side, we got on the Linea Mini, we're sitting at around 36 centimeters. So 36, so to give you an idea of what that looks like, here we are, we're at 36. And then this one is a solid, like 9 or so centimeters smaller. It's at 28.5 or so. So 28.5 centimeters side to side. From front to back, we'll just go from the front plate to the back. We're at about 45 centimeters. So that's what that looks like. From front to back here, let me do it so you can see it a little bit better. From front to back here, there's an extra 4 centimeters off the front. So we're sitting at 41, all right? So 41 from front to back. Then we have on the height, from bottom to top, here, let's go from here. We've got about 38 centimeters. And for visual purposes, you got a few centimeters on top there, of course. So we got 33.5 on the Micra. So a much smaller footprint. As you can imagine, it weighs a lot less. And it's just smaller and cuter altogether, right? So let's take a look at some of the obvious differences on the front. The main one being the steam wand. Or at least that's the first thing I kind of see as a big difference. On this one, you have the traditional La Marzocco steam wand. It's single wall, so you're going to get burned if you grab it. This one is cool touch. That's why there's not the little rubber on there, right? So it's cool touch. You can hold on to it the whole time it's steaming. Not going to get burned. It's great. I do it all the time just for fun to test my abilities. So I just sit there and I hold it. And it's great. So let me take this portafilter out because there's something you're going to notice and some of you are going to despise. Okay, so that's what happens when you pull the portafilter out. It's really annoying when it happens at 6 a.m. No, but for real, what we have here is a removable base for the split shot. So it comes off, and it's plastic, okay? So I know that some of you are gonna be like, oh, that's kind of gross. I don't know what my thoughts are on it. They did do a lot of study, and this lessens the thermal mass so that you can get to temperature a lot faster, which is something they wanted to beat from the Linea Mini. So this takes about 15-20 minutes to heat up and to get the stainless steel group and everything nice and thermally stable. This only takes about 5 minutes, and part of that they're saying is because of the lower thermal mass of the portafilter, which does make sense on paper. But in reality, yeah, so let's just take a closer look at this in general. So it kind of screws on and off. It's plastic. So my fear is, if someone isn't thinking, if they're on autopilot in the morning and they tamp right onto this, my worry is that it could break. I'm not sure. It feels, I don't know. But that is why they have this lowered piece of steel right here. So that lowered piece of steel is so that when you're tamping, the plastic doesn't actually get affected. So when you're tamping, you need to tamp like so, and all of the weight will go on the steel. But you never know what's going to happen in the morning when you're, the yawn is a silent scream for coffee kind of, crack. Oh, son of a gun. Now I can't split the shots with Petunia over there. But what is nice is it is 2-in-1, so you don't have to have 2 different portafilters to have split shots and singles. It comes with a single one of these. I just didn't put it in the video because who's using that? And if you are, comment below because I don't believe you exist. Anyway, so we have bottomless portafilter. So if you don't like this, you can just use this, all right? You can just put that in. We have beautiful, like this B-roll we're about to show. Boom. Look at that beautiful, delicious, bottomless pool. I mean, you love it. I love it. We all love it. It's delish. All right, before moving on, I wanted to quickly show you the water reservoir. There's actually a little bit of a difference here. As you can see, there's easy access right here so that you can take out the little plunger, boom, you can fill it up. Or you can pull it out pretty easily. You just have to yank this little bad boy out of its place. You can pull the whole, here, we'll just do it. There we go. And there you have it. So the water comes out really easily. You can take the lid off if you want. Clean it really deeply. If you have any scum growing because you don't clean out your water, you left it on a vacation and you were gone for a while and there was a little bit of water left. Anyway, you can take that out, you can wash it, yada, 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 yada. But putting it back in, super easy. You just gotta line it all up, smush it down like a Tupperware, like we had a few day old rice sitting in the fridge. There we go. It's all good to go. Then we're gonna get this back on. We're gonna push it in, find the little hole right there, and then we just make sure we twist it on in. Come on in. There we go. All right, there it is. Okay, so there you have the water tank. I just fill it up just like that, put the little plunger back in. Good to go. All right. Okay, so now what's a really cool feature of this, and I'm pulling my phone out, I'm being rude, I'm checking my Instagram, I'm checking my phone, yada, 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 I'm texting. No, what I'm really doing is I'm pulling up, boom, the La Marzocco Home app, and you can control everything. And I mean everything. So I just turned it on. It's going to start heating up here shortly. So we have status. This obviously tells you if it's on or off. Green means on. This is also where you can control cleaning your machine. You'll click that, automatic. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to close it. Give me a countdown. Okay. And then you have steam here. Click that. Turn steam boiler on and off. So that means you can independently turn on the group head in the steam boiler. So we have that. Come back out. We go to settings. Now, this is where your mind's going to be blown. What do you see right here? Well, I'm not going to tell you yet because we're going to go with information. Obviously, this tells you about your machine. Time format. Do you want it in AM, PM, or 24 hours? Do you want, come back. Do you want temperature? And of course, you have the temp options going down to 85. Because that's where the pre-boiler's at, right? The tube wrapped around the coil goes up to 104. I have it set on 98 because I'm a hot boy. Boom. And then you can do it into tenths of degrees, Celsius, Fahrenheit. Come back. Then we have pre-brewing, pre-infusion. Now, this does not just come on your machine stock. You have to plumb your machine in, and then it is stock, if that makes sense. So plumb in is not stock. It has the water tank underneath. If you plumb your machine in, you can use line pressure for pre-infusion. So if pre-brewing allows you to program the pre-brewing, enable plumb in, enable pre-infusion. Really, really cool. So pre-brew introduces a small amount of water to the brew chamber without using pressure, followed by adjustable pause in brewing. This feature drops a small amount of water in order to wet the top of the coffee puck, helping reduce chance. Yeah. And then pre-infusion, as we know, is the continuous introduction of water at low pressure. So that's at bar pressure. So we can turn on pre-brewing without plumbing in. And this is just going to sprinkle some water over the top. I'm not a big fan of pre-brewing because it's not actually introducing pressure, so it's not actually pushing it through the puck, it's just kind of wetting the top layer. So I'm actually just going to turn that right back off. Okay. Loading, cute little coffee beans. But yes, if you decide to plumb this in, you will have the capability of brewing at line pressure. Then you have auto standby, which I don't know why I clicked that. We know what that means. But come on out. Okay. We have auto turn on and off. You can have it turn on and off for every day of the week at certain times. So as long as you turn the switch on, it'll turn on and off automatically using the connection. Come back. And then you have stats. This will show all of your brews for the last 30 days. So how does the espresso actually pull? Well, it has that classic Linea style profile. It's going to ramp up just past 9 and stabilize at 9 bar, unless, of course, you plumb it in and have pre-infusion from line pressure, but we're going to take that away for right now and just talk about how it comes out of the box. So it has those 9 bar shots. Is it going to pull those well? Absolutely. If you're a 9 bar fiend, if you love the traditional 9 bar flat shot that came out in the 60s, then this is going to hit you that every time, replicate it, boom, 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 boom. But of course, we have to take into account that it's not made for commercial. You have about 6 shots before the temperature starts to change. But instead of just saying that, now that it's heated up, let's actually show that. So if you haven't seen this in previous videos of mine, what this is this was built by Greg Scace in the early 2000s. We essentially have a thermocouple housed inside of this synthetic material that kind of replicates the puck and how the puck holds temperature. So what that's going to do is it's going to read to us the temperature of the water escaping it as if it was inside of a puck. So that's a very relevant reading. So I'm just going to plug this in, put that in, and I'm going to let the portafilter heat up just a smidge inside of there with it, and then we'll start taking some tests. All right, so let's take this bad boy for a ride. Click. So we're gonna let it essentially replicate what it's like during a shot of espresso. We're up to 92, 93. Remember, I have it set at 98. It's up to 96. Still climbing. I have to blow. 97. So that steam isn't interfering with your reading of it. So it's up to 97. And it's going down to 96.9. 968. All right, and we'll cut it off. We're gonna let it sit for another like 10-15 seconds. We'll run it again. All right, so we're gonna run the 6th one right here, and here we go. Going up 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. And gonna level out at like 96.6, 96.6. And so remember, I had it set at 98. There we go. Okay, so outside of these 6 that I just did, the 1 and 6 that I showed you, I have all of this data that we'll put on the screen right now. Now this is what I did off screen, obviously. So I collected multiple shots in a row, and you can see where the temperature was stabilizing after shot after shot after shot, with some breaks in between. I essentially just replicated the WBC standard for how you scace a machine for competition. So if you don't know what that looks like, you can check it in the link below. What's really interesting about the Micra, though, is when we get on Miss Frizzle's bus and jump inside as miniature people. So let's jump on Miss Frizzle's bus, and we're gonna go inside. One thing that was initially annoying is that on the top right here, you have these flathead screws. Now, as you can imagine, using a flathead screwdriver, when you go in and it's really taut and you twist, sometimes you slip out and you can scratch up the top, which can be quite annoying. I was asking La Marzocco about this, and apparently it's a necessity for, I think, health, because cleaning a Phillips head is much easier, or a flathead is much easier than a Phillips head. Anyway, there we are. Okay, let me take this off. All right, so we're gonna dive into the machines and take a little look-see-pooksy. All right, so first of all, we're gonna take a look at the group head right here. All right, so what's really interesting here is instead of having a big brew boiler like in the original, there's actually only a 230 milliliter brew boiler that's right below the Piero Group Cap. Now, that's for you nerds, the Piero Group Cap. If you know, you know. If you don't, look up Home Barista Forums. I can link one down below. But anyway, it's a really nice feature that's in the Linea PBs. It was introduced to the GB5 and the FB80s in 2009, and so on and so forth. But anyway, so it's got the Piero Group Cap. There's no neck below it, no neck, no tank. It just goes straight from the Piero cap to the brew boiler below, which is 230 mils. Now, what's really interesting here, before we get into all of this, is if you look right here, you have copper tubes that wrap around the steam boiler, as you see underneath this insulation. It wraps all the way around, and 160 milliliters of water are stored in here that preheat onto the steam boiler. Now right here, this bit right here mixes in cold water to the hot water so that it stays at around 85 Celsius before it enters into the group head itself. So that's a really nice feature for preheating water to be able to utilize a smaller brew head. What we have is some really interesting developments. Not only do we have the Piero group, but on top of that, we have this piece right here. Now this is typically a piece of stainless steel that's the solenoid valve right here. So typically this is stainless steel, which acts as a heat sink. And so there's issues with thermal stability there. Now, because there's not this big boiler on this machine, it's not made for commercial. So you're not going to be able to just pound out shot after shot after shot, which I'll show you a Scace test here in a second. Unlike the Linea Mini, which you can do 10, 20, 30, 40, boom, 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 because you keep refilling a massive brew boiler. Now, because you have such a tiny little boiler, it's important to optimize all the different areas in order to maintain thermal stability. Inside of the Linea Mini, that piece is stainless steel. In here, it's a polymer. So this polymer essentially acts as a neutral piece. It doesn't suck heat, it doesn't give heat, it just exists. And so as the water's coming in and coming out, it is not really taking any heat. I mean, of course, there's a little thermal mass to it, but it's minuscule. Now, I know that some of you are going, wow, this is too nerdy, too in-depth. I'm going to click away. Don't do it if you're interested in this machine, because this is actually a really nice bit that I am really stoked for. So, this is something that was introduced on the Strata AV in 2018, but is yet to be introduced on other machines yet because of the supply chain issues over the past few years. But anyway, what you have here inside of this piece of polymer is actually the flow restrictor. Now, flow restrictors tend to be culprits of scale because where there's a massive temperature and pressure differential, scale can occur, calcium carbonate can deposit, and that can really ruin your jiggler, your flow restrictor, yada, yada, yada. They moved the flow restrictor from here inside the Mini, which is impossible to get to. In order to get to it, you either need to open up the boiler and then reseal the boiler, or you have to take off this whole piece right here, the whole solenoid, in order to get to it. So it used to be in here, which is very difficult to get. And now where they've moved it is here, right inside that piece of polymer. So now in order to get it off, you just have to unscrew this, unscrew here, and boom, you're right inside to get it. And so if you need to clean it or whatever, that's great. But what's even better, and this is what I was really geeking out on, is the plunger on the solenoid as it's opening and closing, opening and closing. Normally it hits the back seating of the solenoid in general, but what it's actually hitting here, what the back wall is the flow restrictor. So essentially every time it's flapping, it kind of partially cleans it. At least that's the theory. So if that is actually working, and what they say is with the AVs it's worked really well, then that is a fantastic thing for home users, because that is one of the biggest issues whenever you are dealing with a machine at home over a long period of time, especially if you're not super conscious about your water going in, if you're not treating your water super well and making it essentially scaleless. So I think that is a massive improvement. So this machine is essentially the dream of any technician or someone who likes to repair their own machine. Same with the steam boiler back here. Everything you need is sitting there on top. This piece right here is actually made from the same material that's on the Mars rover tires. So this changes at different temperatures in order to make sure that the spring on it is coiled to the right pressure. So every step of the way, I mean, La Marzocco is known for this. They don't cut corners when it comes to quality pieces. But that, of course, reflects in the price, which we'll get to in a little bit. But let's go ahead and see one more time inside the Linea Mini. So a few things to note on the Linea Mini are the fact that it has the same size steam boiler as the Micra. So the Micra did not go down in size from here, but it's on the side. So it's much harder to work on. All of the outlets and plugs are all on these sides. So in order to get to them, you're having to take side panels off. Whereas on the Micra, it's all on top. In addition to that, if you want to change the pressure, you have to come all the way down here. But as you see, it's facing outwards, meaning you have to take the back panel off in order to get it. And we have this commercial size rotary vane pump. Okay, so this goes in commercial machines as well. It's a big boy. It's a beastie boy. All right. So of course we have the horizontal laying steam boiler. We've got the massive rotary vane pump, and we have the pressure gauge way down here. All right. Then we'll go and take a look at the Micra. So what's really nice is if you want to change the pressure on the overpressure valve, you just come right here with a flathead and you screw it one way or the other to raise or lower the max pressure on your machine. It's actually completely obtainable from right when you take the top of the machine off. So you don't have to pull any panels off. You just pull the top off, throw a flathead in there, twist to your heart's content. We've done the Scace. We've looked at internals. We have looked at the steam wand. We've looked at the water reservoir. We've looked at the differences between this and the Mini. So what are my thoughts? Well, invariably, I get asked this question all the time. How does it do with latte art? How's the milk steaming? My answer is, I've yet to find a machine where I look at the steam wand and go, this doesn't create latte art capable milk. This is just another capable steam wand. I will say I do not love how short this part is. It makes it a little difficult to get deep into jugs with like just bigger jugs. So you're gonna have to fill up your bigger jugs with more milk than you otherwise would have to if this part was longer. But other than that, I don't really have any qualms with the steam wand. It's 4-hole tip. I don't recommend changing that out, but if you want to, you can. I don't recommend changing the pressure. If you want to, you can. I'm a big fan of just stock steam wands, what comes stock. If you like the look, the aesthetic of the Linea Mini, this is essentially that, just smaller. It has those innovations that I talked about, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. The price. I actually really enjoy this machine, but the price in the US is going to be $3,900. I'm not sure what it will be like around the world. You'll have to ask your local distributor or La Marzocco dealer, but in the US it'll be $3,900. It's hard for me personally, and this is just a personal thing, it's hard for me to ever want to spend that much money on something without flow control. and this doesn't have it. Now, I'm sure you could mod it quite easily in order to do it, but who wants to buy a $4,000 machine and modify it? Not me. That being said, I am not everyone, and a lot of you don't even know what flow control is. You want consistency. You want something that every day you put it in, you're going to get a good shot. Boom, boom, boom. Well, this is going to do it for you, no doubt. But it is expensive. Now, the question is it worth that? Well, worth is a relative question. Obviously, it's a relative subject. I will say, I did visit their factory, and I was able to look at how they construct their machines. And let me tell you, this thing is constructed incredibly well. All of the parts of this machine are fantastically high quality, and I understand why the price tag is so high. Is this truly the response people were anticipating for La Marzocco for a more home-friendly machine? I'm not sure. I do think this will do well, and I do think you'll be happy if you get one. If you're in the market for something like this, I do think you'll be happy. But it is a very expensive machine, and I don't necessarily think this is exactly what everyone was hoping for when they were looking for a La Marzocco response to smaller, more domestic machines. That all being said, it does what it sets out to do, which is making coffee simply and well. Right? You have very simplistic structure, just like the Linea Mini. You turn it on, you turn it off. You have the steam one, you have the hot water, and you have low maintenance. And when you do need to maintain it, it's very easy. It's just right on the top. It has a small footprint. It can fit anywhere in your kitchen. It can fit in if you have a coffee bar at home, and it does all of that. But the price is still going to be an inhibitor for a lot of people. It's still just a little bit too much. But as they say, as they've told me at La Marzocco, though, they build La Marzoccos, and La Marzoccos are not, they're not going to lessen their level of quality in order to match something that might be wanted, which I can respect. They have a certain level of quality that they want to maintain, and in order to do that, the prices are high. So $3,900. Do you think this is worth that cost? Is this something you might want to buy? Is this what you were expecting for a response from La Marzocco to the demand in the home espresso market that occurred over the last couple of years since COVID hit? I'm curious about your thoughts below. Personally, this is actually roughly what I was expecting from La Marzocco. I know their quality. My first ever machine I worked on was a La Marzocco GB5, and that thing was 20 or so years old by the time I got onto it, and it was still running like a tank. So I'm curious what you think at home. Do you think this is worth $3,900? Is that something you would pay for this? Is that something you think is reasonable for this? Were you looking for or expecting something different from La Marzocco in the response to this massive spike of home espresso brewing that happened since the beginning of COVID? I'm curious as to your thoughts. Let's interact down below. But anyway, those are my thoughts on this Linea Micra. I think it's really well built. I think that the internals are fantastic. I think it's super easy to maintain, and I think it delivers what it set out to deliver, which honestly is all you can really ask of a manufacturer, is to deliver what they set out to deliver. And I think they hit that on all marks here. I personally probably won't be getting one of these anytime soon, just because I like flow profiling. I like a little bit more flexibility in what I'm doing, but I know that I am in the minority there. If you are someone that wants an app to be able to start up your machine in the morning before you wake up, if you want fast heat up times, if you want consistent shots where you don't have to fool around, faff around with different knobs and levers, then you have the Micra now. So anyway, I'm excited to interact with you in the comments below. Again, check out my Patreon, check out my Instagram, everything else down below in the caption. I would love it if you would, subscribe, if you turn on the bells for notifications, hit the like button, all that good stuff. All really helps me. And until next time, I hope you brew something tasty. Cheers.